So now that our scene is set up, the next phase is to code our bird. We already have the bird going down, but we now need to make sure that it goes to the right, and that, in our case, when we press the space bar or tap the screen, the bird goes up. All while playing animation and also making sure that the bird gets followed by the camera. So the first thing we need to do is make a script. So right-click on the scripts folder, create a new C# script, and I'm going to call it bird. I'm going to double-click, open it up. So what is my bird going to do? It already goes down, needs to go to the right. So just like all our other past game projects, we need to move. And how do we move? Well, we use the transform.translate functionality. Just like we did with the bullet to constantly move the bullet up, we're going to do that the same thing as we did in the void update. So first things first, I need a speed variable. We'll say 5F is a good speed. And then we're going to use that speed because you never know if we need to adjust it. I don't know how fast actually do Flappy Bird, so we're going to use speed. And then I'm going to call the translate method. And the translate method, we need to say vector2.write, and we need to take it times the speed variable, but also take it times time.delta time. This again just slows it down and uses so that it doesn't get so laggy. The next thing is that we are going to use the rigid body to make the bird go up. And just like we did with the ball, we need to actually access the rigid body. So I need a couple more variables. I need a variable for how fast it's going to jump up, the force. So I'm going to make that equal to 200F, and you'll see why I did 200F here in a second. And you can always, again, change it. We can make it less or more. But then I also need a private variable of type rigid body 2D, and I'll just say it's RB, which that is basically a rigid body like we accessed in the Pong and Breakout Ball when we modified the velocity. And if you remember, you probably don't, but if you remember, we need to access the rigid body or get a reference to the rigid body and save it to the RB variable. So I need to say RB is equal to the get component command and say rigid body 2D is the type with some open and close parentheses. So this get component command will get the rigid body 2D and save that reference to RB, so that I can now use it to add force to whenever I press the space bar. So I'm going to come below my transform translate, and I'm going to ask if I press, so get key down, if I press the space bar in double quotes. And if so, I'm going to say RB dot and call a method called add force. And the add force is similar to the translate. It's looking for a direction and the mount as well. So I'm going to say, well, I want to go up, so vector2.up, but I also want to take it times jump. Now, remember this add force, or just even velocity in general, is different than the translate with the time.delta time. Because the rigid body is a physics component, it already kind of incorporates the time.delta time inside of it. So by simply saying get key down, pressing that space bar, I should add force by the amount of jump. Save it. Come over to Unity here. If I go to the bird, make sure you don't have any errors. If I go to the bird, you'll see I need to drag on the bird script, and you can do it any way you want. Drag it on and attach it. So the speed is 5, the jump is 200. If I hit play to kind of play test what I'm going to do, and I hit space, you'll see that the bird flies. And also, you'll see that it's kind of still continuing to fly. But you'll notice now the camera doesn't follow the bird. So let's tackle that problem. To make the camera follow, we need a new script. C# script, we're going to call it camera follow. Pretty self-explanatory. And the camera follow is going to mimic the bird's position. But it's not going to mimic the exact position. It's actually going to mimic just the X position. So we don't need to worry about the Y because we don't want to follow the bird up and down. Otherwise, if the camera follows the bird up and down, like this, you're going to see through the background. So instead, it's just going to go left to right, moving with the bird. So we could do this one of two ways. We could add we could just do a transform translate of speed, which is 5F in our case. But what happens when I adjust the bird speed in the Unity editor? It's not going to match the camera follow. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to make a reference. I'm going to say public transform bird. And we're just going to get this reference, and we're going to get the position X, and we're going to mirror our position X. And we're going to do that in the update every frame. So I'm going to make a temporary vector3 variable called POS and set it equal to the bird dot position. And then I'm going to adjust the POS dot Y to only equal my transform dot position dot Y. I don't this will make it so that the POS dot Y is equal to my position dot Y, so my camera doesn't ever change or move. And then I will just simply say transform dot position is equal to POS. So this simply modifies the Y, gets the X position of the bird. Also, I forgot, POS.Z is equal to transform.position.Z because I don't want to have the Z position of the bird. I only want to match my position X. So save that, come over here. Make sure you spell everything correctly. I didn't spell position right here correctly. There we go. Position. Come over here, let Unity compile. Select the main camera. Add the camera follow script to it. Now it is looking for a reference to the bird. So let's connect the bird to this object. Hit play, and now the camera, as you can see, should follow the bird. And it doesn't do a great job because we still need to code some things with the bird, but as you can see, everything is working correctly. All right, let's tidy up some things. So you notice the bird is rotating. Well, that happens with the rigid body. If you come down here to the rigid body 2D, notice there is constraints. If you don't have that, you might just see this constraint with the triangle. Open that up. There is things to freeze position, or more importantly, we want to freeze our rotation. Our rotation here is the Z. So that will help tidy that up. There we go. But notice we can fly through our level pretty good. Play around, and I would test, like, as you can see, I am doing pretty good job at the 200 for my jump, but the jump could be a little more if you wanted to, or could be a little less. So you can play with that, set it to 225, set it to 250, get a number that's close to what you like. Same thing with the speed. If you think you're traveling through it, you could change it to 4, test it at 4, test it at 2.5, test it at whatever you need to.